here we go again. Common past on this beat, I made it to a jam. Now everything I'm not made me everything I am.
So I was like, obviously everything has to fit the concept, right? So we know an ad where a white person was a maid and people thought the madam was actually the maid, and then it all got confused. But a brand that did it, I think perfectly, it's Bantam. I don't know if
Come, get off. Throw out all the stuff. What is it? Come, shop, 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 shop.
it just worked beautifully because of the concept. So everything goes back to the concept.
So Kat, I know that ad, wasn't it? Didn't they switch roles when they were going to a specific area? Didn't the black guy become the boss only because they were dealing with black customers?
Yes.
Yeah, that for me is loaded politically. For you to say you like it, it's a very loaded ad, eh? So you
why didn't you like it? Why didn't you like it?
So that ad simply portrays that people will only relate to the black guy because he's black. You're using him as a black face. You know what I mean? Just to appeal to the black customers so that they trust him more. You know what I mean? It's like the white person acting like he doesn't own the business when he owns the business just to appeal to black people.
So for me, that's the reality, because think of a Facebook, what's this Facebook community? Black Sense, no, Brown Sense. Right, we are supporting and we are on Brown Sense because it's black people supporting black business so that we can grow together. And we've had those narratives that white people support white people and they keep money in their circles. And it's reflected in the ad. That's the reality.
I think, you know, we've spoken a lot about like ads kind of reflecting, you know, like even you were saying that, you know, with certain film or like series productions, they need to reflect the reality of the country. And chances are, like, that ad reflected that, you know, to a certain degree, that when it comes to things like maintenance in the home, like someone will contract, like a white person will contract another white person to do home maintenance, and then the black person will trust a black person more, which I think isn't too far from the truth. So that's why I kind of like thought that ad was kind of like relevant and, you know, quite interesting to a certain degree, because we've also never seen something like that before on South African TV. In terms of advertising, especially.
So for me, like, I don't know. For me, it's just like it feels wrong to just use a black face just to appeal to black people. Joe, it's for me, it just feels wrong. And it's
whose face do you want to use?
Yeah. Joe, I want to use a black person in general. I don't want to use him to appeal to black people. And when we're talking to white people, I choose a white face. If I'm using a black person and if my narrative for the story is to show a black successful guy who has a maintenance business who drives a Ford Bantam, that's the story I want to tell. I don't want to tell the story about a black guy who's only the owner of the Ford Bantam when he's in Soweto. But as soon as he drives out and he's in Sandton, the owner of the Ford Bantam is a white person. So for me, like,
but like, you're assuming the owner of the Bantam was the white guy. No one said it was the white guy.
I'm saying outside of Soweto, it's the white guy.
But you're assuming that the white guy owns the Bantam completely. Isn't that what you're saying?
He's the boss. Like he's the boss. That's what they were portraying, that in Sandton, the white guy is the owner of the business. In Soweto, the black guy is the owner of the business.
Who owns the black guy?
Who is the real owner of the business?
Yeah, it's about... You're assuming that the black guy wasn't owner of the bikey.
Johan, it's not Johan.
Guys, me, I'm gonna share my screen quickly, ne? My screen. You tell me that this guy is the bikey.
We know the ad.
No,
it's just the way you put it in.
Clearly, you don't.
On this one.
Clearly, you don't. Tell me that guy is the owner.
Okay, keep playing.
Hey. No, at this very moment, is he the owner of the bike?
He's the owner of the
He is.
Currently, the white guy is the owner of the Baki.
Yes, currently, right? We are in Sentin. The white guy is the owner of the Baki. We
At
are,
Rodiport or Krugersdorp.
yeah, wherever.
That is not
Don't
something.
disrespect Rutherford.
That's brown fish.
Yeah. This is terrible.
Thank you.
What's
Thank you.
important to know
Thank
the
you very
time.
much.
Nonsense.
Yeah. It's
Hey,
important to remember what time that ad was flighting. And it was probably around the time when can you hear me?
we can.
Yeah.
It was around the time when and
That ad was done by Ogilvy.
white people owning businesses that BAE certificate, but they black workers didn't even know that they own the businesses. So I think, yeah, thinking back to when that ad came out, awful, tragic.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Lee. And also, if you think about like so many white businesses today using like black names, addressing their businesses and like black names, like Bo Itemba Property, and there's another one with a black name, a very Zulu name, that actually is very anti-black, like what the business does. It uses CCTV and like artificial intelligence to like learn black people's faces, specifically in the suburbs, so that, yes, specifically black people, not white people, but the company name is a black name. Can you imagine how violent that is? And that's like currently. So yeah, I don't like this ad. So
Guys, I think what I wanted to point out is sometimes advertising, it's about starting a conversation. You think of campaigns such as TIA, you think of Go Back to Africa. They use the tension to start the conversation. I think this is just one of those ads. We are talking about it right now. And I think that's what it did when it came out. We started talking about these things. We know when it came to BEE, especially when we're still learning about triple BEE, a lot of white people to this day, they are still fronting black people. And we must have those conversations. And this ad that exactly.
But you can't compare this to TIA, Joe.
But also, guys, why is everyone assuming that the Baki belonged to the white guy? Why is everyone assuming that it's business?
No one is assuming
It's the clothes. It's the clothes. It's clear.
overalls.
The black guy is wearing the overalls. The other one is wearing nice clothes. You don't. It's very clear.
But then they swap.
The black guy was a lot better dressed than the white guy.
But who wore the overalls, guys?
They both
You don't-
did.
They both did.
So
But in the beginning, it was the black guy who wore the blue overalls.
So the ad was
But would the ad have been as interesting?
started off with the black guy and the white guy. Would you then assume that the Baki was the black guys?
I just personally think that the one who's wearing the overalls is the one who doesn't own the company.
It's
But then
open
at
for
the end, the white guy wears the overall and he's wearing a shirt. So the roles got reversed.
So, but guys, for me, I feel like here we can't say this thing is hitting a tension point and then making an argument against it. You know, whereas about TIA and all of them, TIA was saying this is not Africa as you know it. You know what I mean? This one is actually embracing this narrative of a white person appealing to white people and then using this black guy to appeal to black people. It's celebrating that fact that Buyani and Leaho are referring to. Like, Joe, it's a reality in South Africa that we shouldn't be proud of. And for me, as a brand manager, to approve the fact that your car is being used as this thing that drives people around and driving this whole narrative of we're gonna use this black face here, we're gonna use this white face here. I don't think it's a great ad, and I don't think there's space for it currently in South Africa.
Tsapo, you are missing one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it that I said ads. Does it start a conversation now? Answer that question.
It starts a conversation, but also an ad should provide a solution, an opinion. Like no ad should be just out there and start a conversation and that's it. You know what I mean? As an ad, for now we stand for something. As a brand, you need to stand for something and say what you stand for, and the conversation is driven from that. When Castle Milk Stout said "get it back," they didn't say, "Hey guys, there's still this thing in the country where we don't know whether black people are." They said, "We need to get it back. This is the statement we are making as a brand." There's the conversation there, and the conversation was now: is it a racist ad? Is it not a racist ad? But the brand took a stance. For me, it doesn't make sense for you to just be a brand that just puts an opinion out, not even an opinion, that just puts a piece of work out there, and you want the public to decide. And the piece of work that actually shows you celebrating what most of the public is against.
Me personally, I can't speak for anyone else. I still don't see anything wrong with that ad. I mean, I think for me, it is the reality though. Like, you know, it's the reality of what is still happening today. It's like white people are still more likely to trust white people with their businesses and black people vice versa.
But that's not the truth.
Is it not?
It's not like a simple vice versa thing. That's not how white supremacy works. Because a white person would still be trusted by a black person with a business, you know? Maybe on a personal level, you don't trust the white person because you know, white people. But yeah, like a white engineer who's coming to like fix your plugs or anything, you still trust. A white plumber.
Except Cats. Cats only does black only.
Of course.
Yeah, and that's his political stuff.
I'm not even hiding it.
Because there's a clear outcome from that. But just like from psyche perspective, it's not a thing that's as prevalent as black people not being trusted.
I think for me, from what I've seen, is it is a thing where like black people are giving more black businesses a chance, which is why I think you could flight that ad there and it still would be relevant. That's
and
just
why doesn't your ad stand for white people giving black people a chance? And that ad, the time that it came out, Joe, it was a time post-apartheid where black people now are starting to empower themselves. You know, like for me to just diminish a black person and say, okay, you'll get the car business in Soweto. Whereas as a brand, you had the opportunity to actually show a black person working the streets of Orania as a proud engineer with a car, and it's like, no, I'm not gonna come here with overalls. I'm actually gonna employ these people. You have that power as a brand. So for me to just tell that story like that and just to be funny, I don't understand, Joe. It doesn't make sense.
Tap, are you aware of brown sense?
Nonsense.
Brown sense.
Oh.
Nonsense.
No, what is brown sense?
Brown sense is a community of black people on Facebook. I'll check the numbers right now. What it represents, it's all about black people supporting black businesses. I think this narrative of, for example, and it's what I don't want to use the word Somalian, but for a lack of a better word, apologies. In townships, people who've got spaza shops, we call them Somalians. And the reason they were able to take so many tuck shop owners out of business is they do this thing of bulk buying, working together. And by doing that, they can buy goods for a cheaper price, and they can sell them at a cheaper price. And brown sense, not to say they are copying, but it's something similar. And for me, that narrative, that ad has got that narrative in it. But my point around it is it starts a conversation. For me, that's enough. Sometimes you need attention to start a conversation. Another brand, maybe it's not, Jet did it with Denim Doesn't Discriminate. For me, Denim Doesn't Discriminate. The reason why they went for that diversity inclusion route was part of it to start a conversation and to get people thinking.
But Denim Doesn't Discriminate is a statement. It's a statement you're taking as a brand, and you're like, Denim doesn't discriminate. And that's the conversation that you're starting. Like, you don't leave a conversation up in the air. That's what I mean. Like that ad, the way you're trying to rationalize it by starting a conversation, I don't feel like it it was taking any stance. It wasn't saying anything. It was just being funny for the sake of being funny. I do not believe that the creatives who were brainstorming that wanted to start a conversation around black business and white business. They thought it was a script. And
at the same time, in varsity, theory taught me that advertising sometimes can leave concepts open-ended for interpretation. And an example that they used to make is, think of a bully abusing a kid and tells the kid, bite the pavement, and then kicks the kid from the back. And then they're like, leave it like that. Did he break his teeth? Did he bleed? You don't say anything. You leave it. That's theory that we were taught. And I believe that ad follows that concept. It's leave it to any interpretation. And if I was taught this as theory and I'm seeing it in an ad and you are like, that's not what the concept or the objective could have been, I don't know.
Okay. So just by yes and no, who who agrees that this ad was right? I say no.
I say no.
Say no as well. I didn't like
Mm-mm.
We can't hear you, Ford.
I still want to know who owns the Bucky.
You know, that's funny. The actual conversation we're having was actually who actually owns the Bucky. That's what our thing was. We're like, I get it that at some point this person uses as a main face, the other point is the face. But the question is, who actually owns that actual Bucky?
Because there's a part of
Only
that
a white person would do
guy
that.
answers the phone and gets the deal or whatever. So he's the one taking the calls. There's to two businesses. There's one overall, and they've both got formal wear.
It's fraud.
So they share an overall, but they don't share the formal way.
Correct.
Guys,
and the black guy is the one.
Don't be literal. Don't be literal, guys.
But
I don't know.
To answer your question, I don't have a personal problem with that ad. I
Both
can
of
see
them
how
could be working for an Indian man.
Damn. Here we go again. Common passed on this beat, I made it to a jam. Now everything I'm not made me everything I am.